can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, I'm gonna be talking about Sins of Sinister Dominion #1 by Kieran Gillen, Paco Medina, and Lucas Wernick. This is it. This is the end of the Sins of Sinister event, and I will go ahead and tell you right now, it didn't disappoint. I will definitely say the story has been kind of like really weird and all over the place, but definitely not in a bad way. I mean, yes, I do think some of the tie-ins are ostensibly better than some others. However, this one wraps it all up nice and neat in a neat little bow. And I will admit, even if you are someone who happens to come in on the tail end of this, while you will definitely be confused by a lot of the events that take place throughout the course of this book, you will get a nice neat little cleanup at the end that will kind of get you vaguely up to speed. But there are definitely callbacks to previous issues of Kieran Gillen written titles, so yeah, you will want to have done some reading before this. What I decided to do with this one is, instead of just, going through and just doing like the blow by blow by blow by blow, what we're really just gonna talk about here is, did Mother Righteous just win it all? There are definitely some solicits out there that would kind of lend us to believe that none of the Sinisters that are involved in Sins of Sinister, neither Dr. Stasis, neither Orbis Stellaris, or Mother Righteous, or the Mr. Sinister we have known all this time, none of them actually won or achieved their goals. There is, and this is something I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but the thing that I want to focus on just right this second is Mother Righteous. Mother Righteous, as we saw, was killed off seemingly in Nightcrawler's #3. However, the timeline, let's go ahead and get this out of the way, it has been put back to normal, and I don't think this is a surprise. It's not a spoiler. I think we all knew that the Sins of Sinister timeline was not going to last, and anyone who thought that it would, I have some bridges in Arizona that maybe you might be interested in buying. However, the thing here is that while neither Mr. Sinister or Mother Righteous actually achieved the goal of becoming a Dominion, Mother Righteous is the one who clearly walks away with the dub between the two of them. Now, yes, she was killed off and everything has been reset, so technically she's still alive again. And what ultimately happens here is that once Moira, yes, it is in fact Moira McTaggart who kills the clone of herself that resets everything, Mother Righteous still technically got what she wanted. Now, we talked about this in the previous video for Nightcrawler's #3, so I won't go too terribly deep off into it, but what we knew is that in Mother Righteous's entire goal was to take all the information, all the worship, all the faith that she had accrued over 1,000 years and send it back to herself in the present day timeline. And technically, she was stopped from doing that by Wagnarine. Wagnarine was the one who sent Mother Righteous to the Gulag in Nightcrawler's #3. But because Moira was the one who destroyed the clone of herself that reset the timeline, Moira did a little bit more than just that. She actually took Mother Righteous's plan and put it into full motion. Now, granted, doing it in a way Mother Righteous was not going to do. Originally, Mother Righteous was going to take Wagnarine's daughter, the little golden Nightcrawler looking baby who we saw in Nightcrawler's #2, that child that she had hidden away in a pocket dimension away from her mother, Wagnarine. She was going to sacrifice that child to fuel the virus that would send all that faith and energy back into the present once the Moira clone was destroyed, thus empowering Mother Righteous to levels in the present that she wouldn't reach for another 1,000 years. Moira just went ahead and gave Mother Righteous what she wanted. The only difference is that instead of sacrificing the little golden child, she sacrificed Mother Righteous instead, because technically the sacrifice required someone who had faith built around them. And while the child was definitely that, Mother Righteous's whole gimmick is faith and favors, so she fit the bill just the same. The data download still happens. Mother Righteous now knows everything from Sins of Sinister and is presumably one of the few people who is dialed in on anything that happened during that theoretical timeline. Now, granted, Rasputin IV, who we saw last in Immoral X-Men #2, we see her again reappear in this issue after everything is reset, after Moira has informed Sinister of what she had done regarding Mother Righteous and informing Sinister that he did not, in fact, win, that he did not achieve Dominion status. Someone else had beat him to it. There was also something set in place that allowed Rasputin IV to be resurrected, and this very likely falls in line with the deal that Rasputin IV had presumably made with Mother Righteous in Immoral X-Men #2. Rasputin IV is back. She's able to take revenge on Sinister, bring him before the Quiet Council, lay all of his sins bare before them, all roughly around the time frame of Immortal X-Men #9 and 10, which all kind of take place within the same stretch of time. It's the period of time where Sinister was repeatedly killing Moiras and starting over and over and over and over again, trying to destroy the Quiet Council and kick off Sins of Sinister. So everything that's happening right now, the whole Sinister Charles, Sinister Emma, none of that has happened yet. They have caught Sinister, put him in the pit, something that's been teased and hinted at for a long time now. He is finally in the pit, and to ensure that no one on the Quiet Council who has been infected by the Sinister gene, and at this particular point, it would have only been Charles, Emma, Hope, and Exodus, they are voluntarily sequestered into the pit. And the main reason this happens is because Rasputin IV, not only does she tell everybody what's really happening, Mother Righteous also comes along and tells everyone what's going on. Because here's the deal, Rasputin IV, while she is back, she is very much fulfilling about roughly the same role that Banshee and Vox Ignis did for Mother Righteous during Legion of X. She is, for all intents and purposes, Mother Righteous's standard bearer. She is the herald of Mother Righteous, and she is bought in. She is drinking the Kool-Aid 100%. She believes Mother Righteous is truly the salvation of the universe. And here's something to consider. Rasputin IV is not an evil person. She clearly took issue with the fact that Sinister was not doing what he was doing for heroic methods or means, that he was only doing this for himself, that he, in fact, was the true villain. And while she knew a lot of the things that he had done in the past that led to this universe being the way that it was, she still followed him only up until she realized he was not actually trying to save the universe. So once again, Rasputin IV has not turned evil. I don't want anyone to get that misinterpretation. She is just blindly following someone who she thinks is on the side of justice. And thanks to Rasputin's endorsement, Mother Righteous has now propped herself up as the savior of the universe, the savior of Krakoa even, and to the point that everyone now is starting to believe, and to the point where she is starting to curry faith and favor from members of the Quiet Council. And real quick, I do definitely want to say, Mother Righteous is still wearing her white mask. They have no idea that she's a Sinister clone, even though Sinister has mentioned that there are other clones of him out there doing dirty work. They don't know who any of them are, because once again, I feel like this is something that happens a lot of times, not just with these comics, but with comics in general. A lot of times that we, the reader, have information that the characters don't have. So sometimes we tend to think that, oh, well, why doesn't anyone know this? I know this. Why don't they know this? And it's because Mother Righteous is really good at what she does. She has made sure no one knows that she's a Sinister clone. We didn't know that she was officially a Sinister clone till the end of Legion of X. She didn't really start just revealing who she was until then. So yes, Mother Righteous is now pretty much the savior of Krakoa, and she has even gotten exactly what she wants. She has gotten a thank you from one of Krakoa's most powerful mutants, and that is Storm. Storm has given her thanks on behalf of Krakoa, and while this may seem like a very small thing, like, oh, it's not that big a deal, she thanked her, what's the big deal? We cannot forget how Mother Righteous's powers work. She has effectively become a god, more or less. She's not officially a god, like with the big G, she's more like with the little g. Just the same, faith is empowering. And we've learned this over the course of various other X books as well as other Marvel Comics titles. The more people who believe in you, the more faith you can accrue. And I mean like real faith, real actual favor and faith. It empowers you if you know the way to use it, and Mother Righteous does. That's why every time we see her, she's always asking people to thank her, to say, give me thanks. And that is how she keeps building it. And we also know that there are two specific ways to truly increase that power. One way is to have millions of people following you and giving faith and thanks to you. Another way is to have someone incredibly powerful believe in you. And right now, Mother Righteous is getting a little bit of both. We saw before in Legion of X, she was really interested in getting Legion to be the one who gave her faith and favor. However, she didn't quite win Legion over. She almost got him. And the reason she wanted Legion was because of all the millions of his personalities. Someone that powerful with that many personalities in their head, that would have been all the following she ever would have needed. And now she has one of Krakoa's most powerful and most well-respected mutants giving her thanks and favor on the behalf of the entire nation. I think it's safe to say Mother Righteous is eaten right now. So we've said all that. What of Mr. Sinister? We know he's in the pit right now. He's gone. He can't infect any of the Quiet Council because they're now down in the pit with him as well. But the question is, if he didn't achieve Dominion status, and even though Mother Righteous has technically won in this, she did not achieve Dominion status either. We know that Dr. Stasis and neither did Orbis Dolores. Neither of them achieved Dominion status. Wherever it was a Sinister. And I'm gonna throw a little crackpot theory out here. It's time to put the tinfoil hat on, and you guys can go ahead and say it right now that, oh, here he is, Blerd without fear. Look at him. He's out here pontificating and just making up BS. I get it, but it's the only thing that makes sense to me. And maybe it'll make sense to you too. We know that we have had 4 card suits of Sinisters. We've had Mr. Sinister, who is the diamond. We have Orbis Solaris, who is the spade. We have Mother Righteous, who is the heart. And of course, we had Dr. Stasis, who was the club. However, we only have been told about 4 Sinister clones, but what if there was another? What if there was a secret 5th clone that we've never even seen or heard about? And I say that because, well, yes, we have had all of the face card suits, but what if there is a Joker among this deck of Sinisters? What if there is someone who is more powerful than all of them? Someone who has already achieved Dominion status. They've already beaten the Sinister to the punch. They already exist outside of space and time as a Dominion. Therefore, they exist across all space and time and can just witness and watch as everything unfolds, and they're completely safe from any kind of reprisal from the Phalanx. Who else would it be if not a Joker? But once again, it's not that far out of the realm or spectrum of possibility that there is a 5th Sinister. Lots of crazy stuff happens in these X books. It's no different than the whole, hey, there's a 3rd Summers brother out there, and then later on we would wait 10, 15, almost 20 some odd years before Vulcan was introduced and come to find out that it was supposed to be Adam X all along, and no one ever talks about that. I talked about this a little bit on Twitter, but I'll talk about it here, just some reasonings why I think this could potentially be the case. You go back to the Immortal X-Men number 8, I believe it was. In that issue, Destiny, I say saw, shouldn't really see anything, she's blind, but there's an instance at the end of that book where she stepped down into Nathaniel Essex's basement, and we see 4 different pods, each with a card suit: the heart, the spade, the diamond, the club. We see all this. What if there was a 5th pod just sitting off panel? Maybe it was directly in front of Destiny, hence why we wouldn't have seen it. But I would love it if maybe somewhere down the road Kieran Gillen goes back, shows us the alternate side of like an alternate take from that. I guarantee you we will probably see something like that. I mean, Gillen's not shy about revisiting moments from previous issues. He's done it in this issue with Sins of Sinister Dominion number 1. He goes right back. Issues number 9 and 10 in this issue. We even see panels directly snatched from those issues and repurposed and put in this issue. It's not out of the spectrum of possibility. Here's the other question. What of the Quiet Council? Well, as I said earlier, they are now in the pit Xavier, Emma, Hope, Exodus in the pit. And this actually recontextualizes something. Some of you may or may not have watched my video for Bishop War College #3. In that video, which I do highly recommend you check out, but if you haven't, a link up here, if you have checked out the issue, then you probably already know that Moira at this precise moment is digging into Krakoa to reach the pit using the Fenris twins. And the idea is to unleash Krakoa's mutants that have been held in exile. Now, at the time, she was talking about Sabretooth and the exiles, but operating under information that Moira doesn't have, Sabretooth isn't in the pit anymore, so that idea is not going to hold water. However, now maybe she could unwittingly unleash Xavier, Emma, Hope, and Exodus, because right now they're the only mutants in the pit that we are aware of, well, other than Mr. Sinister. But that seems like such a weird plan to go with, knowing what Moira knows about how all this unfolds. It seems like she would just be unleashing chaos for chaos sake. She already knows that those particular individuals, if they are unleashed, Sins of Sinister kicks off without a hitch. But maybe that's her Hellfire Gala plan. Maybe her plan is to unleash these mutants, have Sinister take them over, and prove to the world that the mutants can't be trusted. Once again, it's a huge leap in logic, but that's the only reason I can see Moira trying to get into the pit and getting anything good out of it. We also can probably assume Moira might also have information about what's going on. Now, granted, she no longer has her mutant power. When timelines are reset, she doesn't maintain any of that knowledge naturally like she used to. She's no longer a mutant. However, that doesn't mean that she couldn't have potentially kept some of that information. She clearly knows something because she is the one who is speaking to Sinister once he gets back to the timeline and everything goes off. She is the one who had rendered all the current Moira clones as no longer being mutants, so clearly Moira still knows. So right now, that's our clearest answer on who are the four who still remember the events of Sins of Sinister. We know the Sinister does. We know that Moira does. We know Mother Righteous and Rasputin IV do. I don't think anyone else remembers. Now, I will definitely say one weird thing about this comic, and it's something that I didn't think about till literally right now as I'm recording this. I thought it was kind of weird that despite the fact that this comic, once everything is reset, it goes back to roughly right around the time of Immortal X-Men number 9 and 10. There's a moment from Immortal X-Men number 6 that seems completely forgotten. Now, maybe Sebastian Shaw is just being glib when he says that he'll check into Mother Righteous's credentials. I don't think he has to really, because they've already met. In Immortal X-Men number 6, Sebastian Shaw summoned Mother Righteous and had clearly cut a deal with her. So he knows who she is. So he's either playing coy or ignorant or both. I don't think that any of this undid the events of Judgment Day, because that's when Immortal X-Men number 6 takes place. I don't think any of that got undone, but it is definitely safe to say that something ain't right here. But yeah, I would just go on a limb and say Sebastian's playing dumb. He knows who she is. Unless Mother Righteous is just suddenly wiping memory, she didn't do that for Banshee or Vox Ignis, and presumably with everything going on with Nightcrawler by the end of Legion of X, I'm not really sure exactly what all is going on there, but it's definitely clear there are some events that will very likely be undone or ignored from some of those final X issues before Sins of Sinister, but the whole deal with Sebastian Shaw shouldn't be one of them. As for how all this wrapped up, I thought it wrapped up nice and neat, even with a little bow. I will definitely say that I'm curious to see who else we'll see from the Sins of Sinister timeline going forward, because, well, Rasputin IV crossed over. Will we ever see characters like Wagnerine and her little golden child? Will we ever see John Ironfire again? Those are characters I think would definitely be worth, exploring some more in the future. I will definitely say that as far as John Ironfire goes, he likely died with that timeline, but we do know John Ironfire already exists in the current timeline. We just haven't seen him around, so we could definitely see John Ironfire more often, albeit it'll be the present day version of him. I don't think we'll see the Sins of Sinister version of him at the end of year 1000. And while technically everyone in the Sins of Sinister timeline who had a Sinister X gene was killed off even before the timeline was reset, I do think we'll see Wagnerine and her child again, because of every single person that died that had a Sinister X gene, Wagnerine and the Golden Child, they were the only ones who seemed to have a protective barrier of some sort around them. So I think it's safe to say they're not gone either. Either way, I really like this. This was fun. It was a really solid end and wrap up to what I think is one of the best House of X era crossover events I think we've had up to this point. I think it sits right up there with Inferno for me as far as House of X era, quotey fingers events. We will have to wait and see what's going to happen with the fallout of it, but it's definitely setting up Hellfire Gala shenanigans. We know the X-Men are going to catch not just one, but possibly two, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 50, 11 black eyes at the Hellfire Gala. It's already been kind of put out there, but yeah, there's gonna be a lot. There's gonna be a lot going on. The Fall of X is well on its way, and I'm even more anxious to see how the Sinister Four is gonna work out, considering that they now have a common foe in a Sinister who has already beat all 4 of them to the Dominion finish line. But anyways, that's everything I want to talk about with Sins of Sinister Dominion #1. Before we get out of here, I will also be jumping on to the Comic Book Herald stream today or the next, whenever this video may or may not reach you. I don't know if it's going to be out today, Wednesday, as it's being recorded, or if I'll release it tomorrow, Thursday. Either way, whatever happens, go check out the Comic Book Herald YouTube channel. The guy behind it, Dave, does a bunch of videos every week breaking down everything going on with all the X-Men comics, as well as other comics in general. He does the Krakoan series, where it's all about X-Men, House of X, all that good stuff every week. And I will be hanging out with him for this week's edition of Krakoan. We're going to be talking about Sins of Sinister in even more detail. So yeah, go check that out. I'll make sure to leave a link to the channel. You can go and see it and see all the other awesome stuff there. Dave's a great guy. If you enjoyed this video, do the YouTube thing, like, share, comment, subscribe, and make sure to tap that notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that I put out. I put out new videos all throughout the week. Not to mention, I stream the Blerd Cave live every Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, where we talk about all the crazy stuff that's going on in both comics and comic book movies and TV shows. Until next time, let me know what you thought about Sins of Sinister Dominion, as well as Sins of Sinister as a whole. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.